Hi, welcome to episode 5 of the Expanding Entrepreneur podcast, where we support entrepreneurs and small teams expand their reach, their impact, and their profits beyond 6 figures, all while avoiding burnout. Who doesn't want to avoid burnout? I'm your host, Lisi Kempton, founder of SoulTree Operations. We're a business growth agency, and we've been guiding entrepreneurs and small teams to scalable, strategic, and sustainable success for the past 20 years. Our guest today is Jessica Soderberg. She's the founder of Nourished Beginnings, and Jessica is a nutrition consultant in Boulder, Colorado. But before I introduce Jessica, in case you are new to Get Vocal, which is actually where I am, this is being live streamed to Facebook and YouTube, so you might be watching it there. If you want to interact with us and ask Jessica questions live, then get over to hop over to the Get Vocal platform, and you can get to it from the app on your phone or from your computer. And you should be able to search for the Expanding Entrepreneur, and you'll find our room. And you join our room, and you can either listen in the room, or you can actually grab a little box here where you can ask questions. So hopefully you come over and see us here, or you just watch it live on Facebook, which is fine. Okay, let me introduce our guest today, Jessica. She worked in a corporate as a training and consulting organization for nearly 17 years as a project and product manager. While this highlighted her skills that she excelled in, she knew she needed to find her passion. After much exploration and personal experiences, she found herself in the world of nutrition, creating deep knowledge of how food supports our body and how we can nourish our body to encourage sustainable lifelong health. Jessica graduated from Vernon College with honors as a nutrition consultant. So thank you for joining us, Jessica. Go ahead and grab a spot. Yeah, I'm up ahead and off the box.
Hi there.
Hi. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. We're getting used to being home, locked up. How are you managing that actually with little kids?
You know, I feel lucky that we can still get outside, because that's been a lifesaver for us. Just, taking a bike ride, or we have that open space park behind our house. So running out there with the Frisbee and stuff like that. So, and since, my husband works for the city, he's off too. So we have both of us, which is huge.
Yeah, it's nice to have some support, especially when you have little kids. You guys can tag team, be like, okay, I need to take a sanity break. You're on.
Exactly. We've been trying to provide some structure and have some homeschooling too. So, we're going with it.
Good. I think getting outside is important for sure with everybody's mental health. At least you can do that and remain safe distance from your neighbors if you happen to see them. Yeah. I saw some friends at the grocery store. I'm like, oh, shoot, I can't go give you a hug. So
I know, it's like,
hey, going across the aisle. Well, awesome. I'm glad you're here and everybody's staying sane and healthy in your home.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I've got some questions I want to ask you. You can share your knowledge and expertise with our Expanding Entrepreneur audience.
Perfect.
And the first one I always like to start with is, there's usually a story behind every entrepreneur's business, and I imagine you have one as well. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and how your business Nourished Beginnings came to be?
Sure. Well, the thing is, you never quite know how your life will pan out, right? And, I grew up in the Midwest. I had a family who, looking back, was very into the health and nutrition space, but in probably a more or a less conventional way at that time. And just really paying attention to the foods that they integrated into their life and the products they use and things of that nature. I didn't even really pay much attention to it, as I was growing up, and eventually made my way to University of Colorado and spent some time here in college, and then moved out to California. And just kind of as I was evolving as a person, I began to be more aware of some of the foods that I was eating, how they made me feel. And I didn't really know what that meant at all. I just knew that, I don't feel good today, or I feel better today. I'm more clear-headed, or whatever it might be. And got into the training and consulting field, and spent as you mentioned, a lot of time in that arena and really, enjoyed myself for a long time. Towards the end of my career, my mom actually got diagnosed with ovarian cancer. That was in 2011. And that, of course, changed my life forever. I didn't even know what ovarian cancer was when she got diagnosed, and I just knew it wasn't good. So essentially, I was with her through her entire journey, and I went to her doctor's appointments, and my sister and I took care of her. And one of the things that I noticed was that even though she had these amazing doctors, oncologists, etc., no one was talking about nutrition and how she could support her body and heal while she was going through this intensive, surgery and chemotherapy. But I didn't know enough. I didn't know what that meant, or if it was impactful, or if it was just my own intuition. And sadly, she passed away 18 months after she was diagnosed. And, every day that haunts me, of course, for many reasons, but also because I feel like if she would have had that support, I'm not sure she would have been cured by any means, but I feel like her life could have been longer and more fulfilling. So through that, as well as my dad kind of having some issues of his own and more on the autoimmune side, but at one point he was in the hospital for a whole week and getting every test under the sun, and no one could figure out what was going on with him. He had, he looked perfect on paper, right? But he was losing weight, significant amounts of weight. His stomach was just cramped and he couldn't eat anything because it hurt so bad. And there's various things going on. And it wasn't until he kind of went the more holistic route and found that he had actually a virus that was impacting him, and just all these things were kind of a vicious cycle. So he had to really dig deep and get to the root of what was happening. So through those two big experiences, as well as my own personal experience of having a miscarriage between my first baby and my second baby, I was like, okay, there's something more here. And I feel really drawn to the world of nutrition and at the same time, I was losing a lot of passion for my current profession. And I finally found a path that led me to going through a nutrition consultant program through Bowman College. And, it wasn't easy because I was having kids, pregnant, etc. But I did it. And I know I'm now in the right place. So that's how I got here.
That is that's amazing. And it is unfortunate that oftentimes there's stories of personal tragedy, that lead us to our life's purpose or to a business that really feels fulfilling to us and satisfying.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sorry. Thank you for sharing that. I'm so sorry to hear about your family. How is your dad now?
He's doing really well. He's very in tune with his body and very focused on supporting himself from a nutritional perspective, but also other ways too, which I think it is a holistic approach, So I'm really, really proud of him and happy for him. And he just turned 70 and he's doing great. He gets to play with his grandkids all the time. So
that's great. And it's so often that I think people in that age group aren't open to alternative medicines or holistic healing because they just didn't grow up with it. It's unusual or foreign to them. And so for him that he was open to exploring that path.
Yeah, it was huge. He really did have to open his mind. And I'm really proud of him for doing that because I don't feel like he would be where he is today without it. So, yeah.
Nice. So that's a positive outcome right there, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So based on all of that experience, then let me ask, how long have you been doing the nutrition consulting?
For a couple of years. So I graduated from Bowman in December of 2018 and have been slowly ramping up my business since then. So
great.
Yeah.
And so based on all of your experience with your family and just going to school, who is your ideal client? Like, how did you determine let me ask, who is your ideal client? How did you determine that you wanted them to be your ideal client, and how do you support them?
Yeah, great question. This is a tough one. It's not easy to actually truly hone into your ideal client, but my ideal client is women who are looking to get pregnant or are currently newly pregnant, or whatever stage of pregnancy you're at. But really, I'm here to support women throughout their pregnancy, and getting to this point took me a while because when you think about the nutrition and wellness space, I think about, oh my gosh, I'd love to help everyone, right? And I have my personal story with cancer and autoimmune stuff, and there's so many ways to go with it. But when I thought about it, I'm like, I really wanted to get back to the quote unquote beginning. And clearly there's so much to think about before you even get pregnant. But if I wanted to start somewhere, I felt like that was a good beginning point to really help influence not only the health and wellness of the woman while she's pregnant and carrying her baby, but also influencing that baby's health short-term and long-term for the rest of their lives. So it took me a while to get there. I went through my program, and my nutrition program, and I obviously explored some of the essentials and essential nutrients for pregnancy, which is where I'm focused during that time. But it wasn't until I actually took a step back and went through, deeper, more women entrepreneur business training that I was able to identify where I wanted to go. And I didn't realize that that my niche with helping, women, families, kids was so large that I wasn't really going to be able to hone in on a single audience and kind of attract them to my business. So I decided to really get serious about defining my niche with the help of you and many others. And I just, it's been huge for my business. It's really allowed me to get to a more solid place with where I want to go. So.
Well, yeah, and if you think about it, you're really not just supporting the pregnant mom, right? You talked about supporting the baby, but then that mom might have other kids, and then they might have a partner or a spouse, and so they're supporting them. Oftentimes it falls on the woman in the house to be that person who develops the meal plans and nutrition. I mean, that's more common still these days than the other way. It doesn't always have to be that way, but you are supporting them, supporting a lot of other people. So it kind of starts with them. Feeds out.
Exactly. And I think that's what I had, where I had to go with it too, to understand that, I'm starting here now, but my business will expand eventually. And I can really dig deeper into those avenues after I establish myself in this, in this niche. So.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
So what are some of the common misconceptions or misunderstandings that you find people have about nutrition?
This was a great question. And so I wrote down a couple of things. And one of them was, you have to be perfect to reap the benefits. And I think a lot of us, especially, I mean, not to generalize, but I think a lot of us women, and especially women entrepreneurs, are perfectionists. And I am one myself. And I've had to really kind of take a step back from that. But I do think I like thinking of it as, you do not need to be perfect, but be conscious, right? So think about, the food that you are putting into your body and how it makes you feel. I think that's step one. But I don't want anyone to think that, let's say, we were partnering together and I created a meal plan and they went off the plan and they're like, oh my gosh. And they're like, no, we give what we can give. You're already headed in the right direction. So you do not need to be perfect. You just be aware and conscious of your nutrition. The other misconception I feel like is that a specific diet will get you results. So there's so many of these out there, whether it's like keto or paleo or intermittent fasting, whatever it may be. And certainly all of those have huge benefits, but it's not about, a popular, I hate the word diet, but I'm just going to call it that because it's easy. It's not about a popular diet getting you the results. It's about really paying attention to what your specific body needs. Everyone is different. Everyone is unique. And that's kind of my philosophy, that we need to really pay attention to you and your body and dig to the root of that. And then we'll figure out what can best support it. And the other two that I just wanted to throw out there were, you know, eating whole foods is expensive. And I like to counter that and say, actually, I don't think so. If you shop the perimeter and you focus on fruits and veggies and some really high quality proteins and you skip the middle aisles, I find when I buy a lot of snacks for my family that I go way over my budget. But when I don't, I'm like, sweet, I've just, spent what I want to spend at the grocery store. And then that cooking takes a lot of time. And yes, it certainly can, but you don't have to get really involved and have a new recipe every day or having something super complex to cook. It's more about, finding patterns of what you like and integrating those and being creative with it in an easy and a way that works for you. So,
yeah, I think that does stop people a lot from eating healthy, is that they might not even know how. They might not have recipes, or they feel like it's complicated or expensive. I think all of those things come up.
Definitely.
For sure. Those are good points. And then I wanted to say too, that I've done that with my exercise routine. Like, well, not anymore, but I used to be like, well, if I can't work out for an hour, then it's not worth it. It's not going to benefit. And now I'll walk around the block and I'm like, okay, great. I feel that's good enough, right? But you really do have to overcome that mindset that it has to be perfect all the time, or it has to be an hour-long workout session. Otherwise it's not good enough. Or that you always have to eat organic. You always have to eat, like, of course you don't want to have a lot of sugar, but sure, you could have, once in a while, right? It's okay. Is it okay? I should ask you, is it okay to cheat sometimes?
Yes. And it's not, to me, I don't even consider it cheating. I just, I love chocolate. I eat my fair share, and I know when I'm going overboard and I don't feel so great. And then I'm like, okay, time to cut back a little, that type of thing. So just being aware of how it makes you feel. Yeah.
So I wasn't going to ask this question. I hope you don't mind me putting on the spot, but do you have any tips for like when people have sweet tooths, like a sweet tooth?
Yes.
What are some things they can do instead of having sugary things? Like,
well, I think the thing is too, just, I actually like to drink tea and kind of make it a fun tea. Like I have this rooibos powder almost that I mix like coconut milk and, unsweetened coconut and almond milk in. And like during my afternoons where I'm like really craving some chocolate, I'm like, okay, I'm going to make myself some yummy tea, or some of that Four Sigmatic mushroom tea. I like those sort of like, or golden milk. Golden milk is super yummy. And if you put just a little bit of honey, and honey has so many benefits, that type of thing.
That's turmeric, right? Is that turmeric and like coconut milk or milk? Honey? Okay.
So I usually make like a fun, quote unquote, healthy drink or a smoothie. Smoothies are great too, because you can actually use cacao powder, which is of course what chocolate is made from, but in its purest form. And it has a lot of magnesium and some other benefits. So you can put that into smoothies and kind of have like a yummy little treat that way. And different things like that is usually what I do. Just to kind of feed the craving a little bit.
Dates are my cheat, my safe cheat too. You get the ones that are rolled in coconut.
Oh yeah, those are good.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah. Okay, so kind of along those lines, what are your top 5, if you have 5 that you want to share, nutrition tips that you'd share with our audience?
Well, okay, so my first is, if there's a lot to this. So being an entrepreneur is full of having a lot of energy for your business, going through a lot of emotion. So you're expending a lot, right? And this is just in your business. This is not in your personal life and otherwise. So if I think about, what would really help support an entrepreneur, I really feel like we need to pay attention to nourishing ourselves. Food is, of course, a core piece of this, but there's other things too. So my first tip is just around food, and that eating foods that encourage energy. So, when we sit down to have a meal or a snack, we really want to make sure we have some protein, some really high quality protein, fat, and carbohydrates, and kind of a good mix of that. And that, of course, will depend on your body. But generally speaking, having like a fistful of protein, some leafy greens or other carbs and having some fat, like really good fat, like avocado or olive oil, that type of thing. So making sure you're just fueling yourself to have the energy you need to work on your business. And the other thing is, we always, I mean, I'm generalizing again, but I think what I find in talking to other entrepreneurs is we dive really deep, right? We put a lot into our business and a lot of time. And sometimes I'm sure we make a lot of compromises. And one of those is try not to compromise eating, like make time for even a short meal or a snack. So integrate that into your day and make it a priority because, as we just talked about, that's going to give you the energy you need to kind of continue. And it's not only about energy. I find that when I eat specific foods, I have more mental clarity and other things of that nature. So I think that's really important. And then just taking, small mental breaks to escape, whether that be, when you do have a meal, sit down and read your book for 5 minutes or, meditate for 5 minutes or go outside and have a cup of tea for 10 minutes or, while you're working, put on your diffuser with some essential oils or whatever it may be. But just something to integrate that element of escape into your day is good. We just talked a little bit about this, but just integrating, herbal teas or even, green tea, and maybe not later in the day, but in the morning, but integrating herbal or other teas into your diet. This can really help support some cravings, but also can be really calming and settling. There's so many, I love herbal tea, but there's so many herbal teas out there that have different ways to support you, but not only are they supportive, they have nutrition in them. So that's huge to just like give you another nutritional boost. And the last tip is, again, just going back to not being perfect, just being conscious and paying, as entrepreneurs, paying attention to what does fuel us. Is a certain food causing some brain fog? Or fatigue? Is it, digestion issues, whatever it might be? And then maybe backing off of that a little bit and finding some alternatives to see if that will make you feel better and fuel you a little bit better. So,
do you recommend food journals for people to?
Yeah, I do love food journals. Yeah. And not only just documenting what you actually eat. So, but it's also, how much time did you take for the meal and how are you feeling before the meal? How do you feel after the meal? And any noticeable, symptoms or not, after eating certain foods. So taking it a step further beyond just here's what I ate today. Because that is great and it shows you patterns, but it's like, let's get a little bit deeper and figure out how we're actually feeling as a result and how much time we're taking to fuel ourselves and things like that.
Those are such good points. And I think it's getting to be more prevalent now and more commonly understood, especially in our area. Jessica and I, for the audience, we both live in Boulder. So people, I think, know that food actually does affect you. And I went through that. It's been at least 10 years now, probably more like 12 or so, where I just was not feeling well all the time. And I finally, it ended up being a kind of a series of things that was going on in my life, but we did identify some foods. My holistic doctors, I found my way to some holistic doctors and we identified some foods that weren't good for my body. And I had other things going on back then. So I wonder if I was retested. We actually tested and I was tested for some of these things and they came up that I was sensitive to them, not allergic, but sensitive. So I cut them out of my diet and I felt so much better. And I wonder now that I've healed like my gut, I had gut problems. I wonder now if I was retested, if I wouldn't be as sensitive to those things as I was.
Yeah, it's really likely because when you're compromised in certain ways, our bodies view some foods as invaders and they want to attack and that can cause gluten sensitivities and different things like that. But sometimes when you do heal and you start to integrate those foods back in, even just once a week or whatever it may be, you'll find that you're not reacting to them as much. And it's funny because, sometimes, I mean, there's so many examples of this out there, but let's say, tomatoes or peppers or something like that. I mean, yes, they're healthy foods, but some people cannot tolerate them. And you keep thinking, but all I eat is really good foods. But that's why we need to like get a little bit deeper and say what works for your body, because it may be a healthy food, maybe a whole food, but it may just not work for your body at that point in time. So
my friend can't eat cucumbers.
Yep.
They do not like her. She likes them. They don't like her.
I know. It's so funny. You would never think that, right? And cucumbers are high in lectin, so it might be a lectin thing, you know?
So I think that's good advice for people if they're not feeling well and it's an ongoing problem, especially if they've gone to their doctors and they can't figure out what's wrong. They really should look at what they're putting in their bodies, right? It could definitely be related to food that they're consuming.
Absolutely.
Sensitive to or causing inflammation or whatever. I had to cut gluten. I can do it now sometimes, but not all the time. I have to be careful. So
that's huge.
Good tips. So what has you excited or this year? What are you excited about?
Oh, okay. Well, obviously at this moment in time, we're in a really interesting space in our world. And so I'm extending beyond that because I don't want to be remiss in not mentioning, what's going on with the coronavirus and stuff. But, aside from that, I really just am so excited about the trends that I'm seeing and the movement towards small businesses and entrepreneurs and especially women really finding what they're passionate about and making it work for their lives. I'm a mom of two young kids right now. And, just, I see so many people in this space trying to make it work so that they have some flexibility, but also some passion in their life professionally. And I'm just really excited about the movement towards, entrepreneurship. And then for myself personally, I'm excited about engaging broader audiences. So, I want to work with people at certainly a local level in terms of supporting them throughout their pregnancy and in some cases an intimate level. But I also am really, really focused about getting knowledge out there because I think in some cases, our conventional medicine only goes so far and we don't really have all the support we need in understanding what are the essential nutrients we need for pregnancy and what can really promote health and help minimize any complications and different things like that. So I want to expand that knowledge and make sure that a broader audience has that available to them. And then, just as a culture, and maybe it's just the space I'm in and the people I connect with, but I feel like our culture is moving towards a more holistic space. And I don't even mean food wise. I just mean taking a broader look at our lives and our bodies and our minds and our spirits and what we need to support to have a long, fruitful life and move forward in a way that feels really good to us. So all of that excites me as well.
Nice. Yeah. So you'd mentioned, what's going on in the world today and the coronavirus. Do you have tips, not specific to the coronavirus, but just for how people can build up their immune system and stay healthy anytime during flu season, or when there's something going on around them, if they have family members that are sick, aside from eating healthy whole foods? Do you have any other tips for people for how to stay healthy?
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly, first and foremost is integrating a lot of immune boosting foods into your diet and kind of getting a little bit lower on the sugar because sugar does suppress your immune system. And let's say for like you eat a bunch of sugar or bowl of ice cream or whatever it might be, and for like 6 hours afterwards, your immune system is suppressed. So if you're around other people that have things going on or whatever it may be, your immune system is a bit compromised when you eat sugar. So I would say limiting the sugar and just kind of boosting up on some of those really good protein, fats, and carbohydrates in terms of vegetables and fruits. Also, vitamin C seems to be really huge. And I think, that's kind of an age-old thing, but it really is true. Getting a lot of vitamin C and vitamin D is very supportive of our immune system. So making sure you get those on a daily basis. And then also just, getting fresh air and taking breaks, and stress is just so impactful on our bodies in so many ways, and especially on our immune system. And there's no way to, get rid of stress completely. But I think just seeing the good in certain things and taking a step back and getting perspective and trying to alleviate your stress somehow, whatever works for you, is going to be huge too.
Yeah, I think that's hard to remember, especially when you're stressed out.
Yeah.
Right? To remember to take the break.
Yeah, absolutely.
From stress and figure out ways to support yourself.
Yeah,
that's a good reminder. Right? It's hard to remember everything you're supposed to remember to survive the day.
It is. So just pick one.
Just pick one. Right? That could be a good strategy. If you remember to do one thing for yourself a day.
Exactly.
Right?
And it doesn't have to take more than 5 minutes, right? So, yeah.
Right. So what else do you want to tell our audience? What do you have, like, any programs you're launching this year? Anything you want to talk about in relation to your business?
Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you. I am, like I said, I'm focused on not only local support, but also a broader audience. So I'm launching my essential nutrients for pregnancy. Two pieces to it. One is, if you really just don't have the time and resources to spend getting, information and providing you with some of the research I've done around, what are the essential nutrients? Why are they so important to your pregnancy? What foods can you integrate to support those? And if you need a little bit more, what supplements are recommended, but also some recipes and meal plans and things of that nature. So that's at kind of like a basic level. And then also really launching my essential nutrients of pregnancy program. So really putting a class together. And right now it looks like it will be, via Zoom or something of that nature. And essentially, having any women who are thinking about getting pregnant or who are pregnant and their partners attending, so that they can understand how to easily implement these type of foods and this type of regimen into their daily life, to make it easy. Because there's obviously, there's so much going on when you're pregnant, or if you already have kids. We want to make it easy for everyone. So those are two biggies for this year that I'm excited about.
Yeah, I tell you all the time that I've known you when I was pregnant 16 years ago. I mean, I needed you for sure. But I can't believe the things I was feeding my son. Like, I just didn't realize that I could steam carrots when he was eating whole food. Like, when I could steam carrots and smash them up, and that would be food for him.
I know.
Like, I just didn't know. Like, my mom didn't do that. I just didn't grow up with that being a thing, that you could actually just steam vegetables and your kids can eat that.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's so true. Because I think, one of the things that I think about a lot is, we've in my opinion, I believe we've done ourselves a disservice by moving into convenience. Because I feel like now, my philosophy is not the norm. It's not the norm to, make your own baby food or whatever it may be. I think we're getting back there, but it actually isn't that hard. It's cheaper and it's more nourishing, so but we've done ourselves such a disservice in thinking that we have all these convenience foods available to us and that they're better and tastier and all of these things. So it's tough.
Yeah, I could have done a better job eating. I mean, I think I took prenatals, but I don't know. Now I know more than I did then. It was better than nothing, but I certainly could have been eating healthier when I was pregnant, and I ended up being a little almost pre-diabetic, which was because I had a toxic liver going into my pregnancy. I didn't clear that stuff out before I got pregnant.
Yeah.
So sometimes, you have to learn by going through
Absolutely.
it.
That's true.
You figure it out. Well, and I decided I didn't want to be pregnant again. Okay, one is enough. So I didn't get to. I mean, one of the things that was a bummer is, like, I didn't get to do everything better the second time. Right? You learn from your pregnancy, and these are all the things I'm going to change on the next one. But I decided I was one and done.
And that's great for so many people. Yeah.
Yeah. So awesome. This is really good advice. I do want to end on you giving, like, one big tip. What's like one big final tip that you have? And if it's something you've already said, that's fine. But if you have something new you want to share, like, and it could be for expanding entrepreneurs, expanding pregnant entrepreneurs, whoever.
Good. Okay. Well, this was tough, but I think, one of the things that we touched on earlier was just as it relates to expanding entrepreneurs, I think just really refining your audience and focusing on the services that truly support that audience. So I think that was one of the other pieces of deep work that I did. I came out of my nutrition program so excited to start my business, and I was raring to go. And then I didn't know what to do because I had so many things in my mind and my brain that I wanted to do. And I was like, oh my gosh, where do I even start? So it took really a lot of diligence and so much support from you to make sure that I refined not only my audience, but my services as they related to that audience, and really took a deep look at those and, had not, 1,000 things to offer, but I have 4 specific things that I offer my clients. And I feel really good about those 4 things. And I feel like I can support, pregnant women in every capacity, with those services. So I think just taking a really deep dive look at what is feasible from, your perspective as an entrepreneur, but to make sure that you can support your audience and your business appropriately. So I think that's my biggest piece of advice or tip.
Yeah, that's a good one. And I appreciate you recognizing me for supporting you, but we were all in a community together. Like, you supported me, I supported you. And then I also want to call out the WINC program that you and I were both in with Mike and Elizabeth, Women in Community, WINC. We were both in that program, which is an amazing network of women. But after that, we, you and I and a couple other women, we all supported each other with our businesses.
Yeah, it's been huge.
I don't want to be remiss in recognizing that.
Thank you. Well. Yes, that's huge.
So, yeah. So that's it. Besides, how can people reach you?
Well, you can reach me via my website, which is nourished-beginnings.com. I'm also on Facebook, and you can, search for me there, or you can certainly email me, jessica@nourished-beginnings.com. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have, and I'm just super excited to be here. So thank you so much for having me. It's been awesome.
Yeah, thanks for joining us today. This was great advice, especially for today with what's going on in the world. People need all the support I think they can get with being healthy and staying well and avoiding, nobody wants to get sick.
No, and in any capacity, especially coronavirus, but any other sickness is not much fun right now either. So, yeah.
Right. All right. Well, hang tight. Don't go anywhere. I'm just going to say goodbye to everybody. I don't have a guest line. Thank you, Jessica, for joining us, but don't go away. Stay here. And to the Expanding Entrepreneur audience, I don't have a guest lined up for next week, but I will find somebody. I have a whole list of people that I want to interview, but I just didn't have a chance to find anyone. So I'll announce that as soon as I have someone. But please join us next week for episode 6 of the Expanding Entrepreneur. And we'll see you guys then.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.